Hi, I'm Megan, and I'm joined with one of our fantastic client managers, Christina. We are Twice as Nice Recruiting, and we build every single search from scratch. We have a 9.9% placement fee, and we guarantee your placements for 18 months. I am so excited to talk to Christina. I feel like every time we chat, Christina, you have some type of very interesting role that you are placing, and this one is no different. So tell me about this role. It's a territory manager, which is a sales role, I guess, but it's for a kind of an interesting sector, right?
It is, yes. Our client sells high quality DNA and RNA purification kits. So for this particular role, we were looking for a territory manager for California, and candidates needed to be based in the San Francisco Bay Area.
What were they looking for in this candidate? What specific attributes or skill sets did this candidate need to have?
Sure. Well, as far as education, candidates needed to have a bachelor's degree in a relevant scientific field. So we were focused on candidates with molecular biology backgrounds or biotechnology. They definitely needed to have the molecular biology experience in school and outside of school. They also needed to have laboratory experience with nucleic acid purification by using DNA and RNA purification kits that are very similar to the ones sold by our client. And then for this particular role, no sales experience was actually required. Our client was more focused on the laboratory experience and the knowledge that the candidates would bring to the position.
So tell me a little bit about the client and why they were interested in this type of candidate.
Our client is a European company with a global presence. They do have their headquarters based in Germany, but they also have a small team here in the United States with an office in the Northeast. As mentioned, they manufacture high quality DNA and RNA purification kits, which they sell to labs, research institutes, universities, and biotech companies. So they're looking for sales members throughout the United States and with this specific role in California to connect with customers in those areas.
How did the search go?
Honestly, the search went a little better than I originally anticipated. We did have a fairly light pipeline throughout. However, we continually had candidates that we could consider at all times. So even though we didn't have a ton of candidates, we had the right candidates. The interesting part of this search is I had ads running on multiple job boards, but they received very little traction with the qualified candidates we were seeking. The best way that we were able to connect with qualified candidates was through our sourcing efforts. And our sourcing team did an incredible job. We shared the targeted profile and they were able to connect with those candidates. In the end, we submitted 8 candidates for our client's consideration, and all 8 of them, 100%, were passively sourced candidates by Twice as Nice.
That's really, really fantastic. Was that the main challenge of just maybe those job boards not getting as much action as we had anticipated? Or was there any other type of challenge that we had to overcome?
Typically, it would be a challenge if the job boards weren't bringing in the types of candidates that we wanted, but because our sourcing efforts were bringing in all of the qualified candidates, it really showed us that that's where we needed to put our efforts. I would say one of the big challenges we had with this search is the sales experience was not required, and as a result, we were targeting people currently working in a lab and trying to see if they were interested in shifting their career into a sales role. And while people might be interested in that, not every person is cut out for sales. So interviewing candidates, talking about their lab skills, talking about their knowledge of our clients' products, but also trying to assess whether or not they have a personality type that is going to be successful in a sales environment.
So you were looking for that person who was ready for a career switch, someone who was okay with doing something else, but still had a sales personality. I'm sure that that's a challenge. I think, when people are in labs, maybe they are a little bit quieter or like to, focus on one task. And with sales, you might have to have a different personality. So I can see how that was definitely a challenge. how did y'all find these people who might have those sales personalities but are still in the labs, other than sourcing? I mean, when you interviewed folks and searched on the internet, how did you pick out these people that were good candidates?
So when you're reviewing someone on paper, it's really hard to tell whether or not they'll be a good fit for a sales role. So we really had to learn through the interview process. And even in the early stage, when our recruiting team would chat with candidates, we would think they were a fit, we would share them with our client. And honestly, our team got better as our client gave us feedback. She would share with us some identifiers that she had in conversations with candidates about why she didn't think they would be a good fit for sales. So we were able to use her feedback later on in the search, and we actually held back a few candidates that we did not share with her because we felt that she'd have the same concerns. So we're really focused on those individuals that had big personalities, that didn't seem reserved, that we're not concerned about prospecting for sales, we're not concerned about a sales quota, and we're very convincingly interested in a new career outside of the lab.
Perfect. So what was the timeline like? Of course, you said that all of these candidates came from sourcing. So what was that timeline between introducing the client to the first candidate and placing that candidate in the end?
Overall, the search was 71 days. I do think the search took a little longer than it would have normally. But we did have an additional challenge. Our client was based on the East Coast and all of our candidates were in California. And our client did want to meet an individual in person before hiring them. So what we did is we conducted a series of virtual interviews with the client and candidates initially. And then after she'd identified her top 3 candidates, we set up one day in California. She traveled there and she met all 3 candidates in back-to-back sessions in one afternoon. And after that, she came away with one candidate that was her top. And from there, they just had to have a final interview with the team in Germany. And at that point, they were able to extend an offer.
Were there any lessons that were learned in this search and in this placement that maybe could be applied to future either sales roles or otherwise?
I think with this particular skill set that our client was looking for, we now know that our sourcing efforts are going to help us connect with the best candidates, and that I could emphasize less on advertising. And we are actually working on a new search for this client in a different area in the Northeast, and the amount of candidates we have there is smaller, but I think we'll absolutely find success through our sourcing efforts.
Absolutely. I think it kind of goes to show when you work with a client several times, you kind of learn their preferences, you learn where to find these folks quicker and faster and exactly what they're looking for.
Definitely, we do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christina. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk with me.
Thank you. Have a great one.